Rah!
When did we all get this dumb?
Almost only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and nuclear warfare. I don't see any bodies, so it doesn't count.
I'm angry about cats.
I'm the chef. I want to hear one thing. Yes, chef.
Come on, man. Use your brain.
The Why I'm Angry podcast starts now.
I guess I didn't set that up. So, awesome. Why I'm Angry podcast. It starts now, I think. This is the chef. I'm checking in here. We've got some pretty good news to talk about, or at least a lot of news and some pretty good topics. I don't know whether it's good news, but make sure that if you want to keep hearing, topics like this and everything that it's called help and share us. Look at following and get on our website. It's whyimangry.com. Get on there and just help us out. Get the word out more than anything, and then we can keep going on and doing this and helping you think critically and freely and all that good stuff. Payton, here in the studio. How's it going? What you thinking?
Going good.
Got lots of news in there. We just talked to Bob Newhart died. Lou Dobbs. We've got just a ton of people and just a lot of people that you're realizing that there's a golden age of people that are no longer going to be with us very soon.
Yep.
And that's not just our actors. That's unfortunately it was my grandparents and those who fought in World War II are pretty much gone. And honestly, Vietnam and Korean War vets are going to be gone fairly shortly too. And we talked a little bit about it last week. The advance in generations, once you get so far from the last generation who fought a major war, or the last generation, or the generation who started things, that's when your dynasty starts to kind of fall apart. And, we talked about that just last week is, how close are we to our dynasty falling apart, because we've, our generations now know nothing about defending our country and patriotism.
We're losing a lot of good stories, that's for sure.
And they're not, and that's it. And they're not getting taught that in our public education, in our regular education.
No, it's not the important.
Because my pastor walked up to me and was like, everybody knows that story, right? He said something from the pulpit about this, whatever it was, I don't even remember. And I said, no, they don't teach that in school anymore. They don't teach American history or even world history half the time. But I was like, that is not taught anymore. And he's like, oh. A lot of blank faces when I said that.
It's a shame, it really is.
But yeah, it is.
I think even World War II stuff, in the grand scheme of things, World War II really was not that long ago, and we've got a whole generation that really doesn't even understand what fascism is.
Well, and we have a generation that never met a World War II soldier.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that's almost scary.
Yeah, there was when I was years ago. I used to frequent an eating establishment around here, and the bar, and one time, me and a girlfriend decided that we were gonna go over and talk to him, and he was he was probably in his 90s then, 80s or 90s, but he introduced himself as Lee, and we got to talking, and this was about the time when you remember Band of Brothers,
Yeah.
that the movie series.
Yeah.
It was about that time when that was released. The History Channel had released it, and he said, "You know that miniseries that's on right now, Band of Brothers?" And I said, yeah, yeah. He said, "Well, I was one of those guys," and
Right.
absolutely floored me. And he told me stories about the Battle of the Bulge, about the storming of Normandy, all these neat stories, and I would go back for a couple weeks after that to just to hear his stories. It was
Right.
fascinating.
Oh, that was me and Jay Boots were on the road buying antiques and collectibles. That's probably what kept me on the road longer, or at least kept me mentality wise on the road more. Is that we talked to all these veterans that they were trying to sell their memorabilia. Their children had no want for any of their World War II stuff. And we joked, at that time, we joked a lot about, that Germany went to war for power, England went to war for honor, and the U.S. went to war for souvenirs because there were a ton of them out there. But in that, we got to hear a lot of stories, and kind of like you said, I have got guys that talked about they jumped in they were part of that group that were just dropped over Germany, over near Hitler's vacation chalets up in the northern Germany. And the one guy goes, I was just they shot me out of a plane, and we were getting shot at, so they just kind of, wherever you jumped out of is where you were going. And he goes, I was an engineer. I wasn't even supposed to be shooting at anybody or doing anything like that. He goes, I was just supposed to be there building a bridge. And we were building this bridge because we blew it up. And so once we took it, we needed to build it again. And he goes, I spent 2.5 weeks in civvies walking around Germany trying to figure out where I was going. And it was just, it's just stories like that where, like, we had a guy that he said he was in Pittsburgh, and he said that he grew up as and I met him in Georgia. And he grew up and joined the army at 16. Told him he was 18 because he was a street kid who had been abandoned,
Hmm.
and three cots and a cot and three hots sounded really good to him. It was
Mhm.
a better deal than what he was getting sitting on the street. And so, he joined the World War II at 16, and ended up in Normandy. Like you were saying, he ended up on the beach. And somehow at 17 or whatever, by the time he got through everything, survived and came back and ended up he was pretty high up in the military, and ended up when he got back, though, he didn't know anything about the US. He was gone for so many years, and he when the war was over, he stayed as part of the rebuilding efforts and stuff like that in the US military.
Huh.
And so he had never really lived in the US. He lived 20 some years in Germany, and only 16 of his years in the US. So
It'd
just
be a culture
interesting
thing.
things like that where, yeah. And he goes, I had to ask a buddy where to live, and the guy's like, well, there's good fishing here in northern Georgia. So he ended up in Georgia.
Huh.
Yeah, but I guess he still had some invitation to stay at the resort in Germany where Hitler had his vacation chalet. It's now a resort. and because he helped liberate them after
Huh.
being in Normandy.
Well,
He
that was the 82nd Airborne. That was the
yeah,
guys, the same guys that
yeah. He
Spanish.
said they gave him free reign of the resort anytime he wanted up there,
Huh.
and they still knew him.
It's
Now,
I I'm flabbergasted how grateful France still is to this
yeah.
day for what happened. It's that's a testimony. It really is.
Well, and it's surprising that, like, kind of like here, we didn't fight for our own freedom in World War II, or in Korea or Vietnam. We weren't here, and so I've had people that ask, well, why do we even go to these wars? Well, we go to these wars a lot of times so that we don't end up fighting for our freedoms here, so that we don't have to fight a war on our own soil. Now, I mean, there's been quoted a lot of times lately. Or I've seen on a lot of TikTok memes. The quote from the Japanese general that says, we won't attack America because they've got a gun behind every blade,
Yeah,
even though even though they did. But yeah,
they did. Yeah,
so
Alaska and yeah, California, a couple of places.
right, right. But yeah, so yeah, that's just a lot of the history is kind of starting to fall away, and we're seeing, like what happened this week. Trump's doing a um just a regular old stump. He's out there just trying to get rallying his troops. And what's funny is me and Jay Boots were actually having dinner. Um, my wife was at a birthday party, and I didn't need to be there, luckily. And we looked up at the TV at Buffalo Wild Wings for as the craziest thing, which we're not sponsored by, but if we could be, we'd take it. Um,
I love
but
Buffalo Wings.
they're solid. Um, but yeah, so we were sitting there having some wings and stuff, and I looked up and I'm like, "Whoa, what's going on at the rally?" And because they had ABC on, and they played it over, like we couldn't hear anything. I mean, obviously they didn't put the audio on or anything like that. But we saw something was going on, so we both got out our phones and we did the real American thing and Googled it. And what was really telling to me was CNN had no clue what was going on, but instead uh, of of reporting what seemed like the news, they said, "Oh, Trump fell."
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah,
The first article I read was Trump
loud
fell or
noise.
something.
Yeah, loud noise. Trump fell.
Yeah, Trump fell or something. And I was like, well, way to miss it completely. Like
Mm-hmm.
in the '80s, had you missed it that bad, you wouldn't be a news organization anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that was the biggest telling, and that's the question I have for you. Would you rather be in the '80s or '90s where you had Walter Cronkite and he says, "This is the news," whether he's right, wrong, lying to you or not, because we obviously think that something else happened during the JFK assassination. But would you rather that, or would you rather know that they're just straight being retards and lying to you, and they have a spin on it and everything, and all of that? Would you rather red pill or blue pill? Would you rather have ignorance and not know
So
that there's some kind of agenda that's not that you didn't know about, or would you rather have it like right now where you just know that everybody's probably lying to you?
mm, see, I would rather have it like it was. And even then, at least, I know they were lying or withholding. Let's put it that way. They were probably withholding a lot more information than they were lying. They're just straight lying now. They don't even care. Cat's out of the
That's
bag.
right.
I don't care. So everything, I don't even turn on the local news any longer because
Right.
it's a narrative or an agenda. They don't look into the story. They'll give you 3 or 4 bits of the story, and they won't give you the full story. I can't tell you how many times I've watched the local news, or even lately it's been the national news, and walked away with questions. And if you're a news organization, your customers should not be walking away with questions. That's just crazy.
That's right.
And that's
100%.
how we get conspiracy theories, because no one can trust the information that they're getting. No one can trust that whoever's giving me this information does not have an agenda. So I'm just going to logically think it through and come up with some scenarios that I think is the best way it probably happened, even though it may not be the truth. It may be the truth. Who knows?
And that's 100% like what we've even been talking about the last couple of weeks is, I know 3 weeks ago I was on by myself and I said, listen, if I'm the only reason that you vote for Trump or Biden, you're an idiot. You didn't go educate yourself. I may be a super genius or not, but if you're just listening to me, then you're part of the problem.
Yeah.
Because it was always meant to be an educated voter.
Mm-hmm.
But they actually didn't trust us to be an educated voter, which is why they had the Electoral College. Like, people 200 and some years ago realized that we were too dumb to actually educate ourselves, like didn't trust us to educate ourselves, and made it a republic as opposed to a directed democracy.
I mean, yes and no. And I think a lot of it has to do with population disbursement. A lot of it has to do with because I mean, if you remember, the only ones that were allowed to vote when it started were property owners.
Property owners, yep.
And of course, property owners excluded most women, all slaves. There was a very minority of people that were actually doing the voting. So I don't know. I do agree on the premise of your argument. Right. I think there was a lot more to it than that.
There was that actual argument about was there an education enough for people out there to were they going to be educated to vote, educated enough on whatever was out there to vote on. So,
but I'll tell you what, right now, Chef, it can be argued that voters back then, or even non-voters back then, were less educated than our kids are coming out with right now, or are more educated than what our kids are coming out with right now.
Well, and that argument can be made, especially because you can because I believe back then they had a stance on things. I don't think kids right now, if they have a stance on something, it's not their stance. It's not because they believe something. It's because someone's either told them to believe that way. And you get that a lot because you're like, oh, I'm gonna go talk to my dad about what I should be voting for, or I'm gonna talk to
I gotta go look on Twitter, or I gotta go look on TikTok.
Right.
TikTok's gonna tell me how to vote.
Right.
Yeah, no one. When we were talking about this earlier before the show started, no one knows how to critically think any longer.
That's it.
And no one has their own opinion. That's the individualism of the country, is that you had your own opinion, and I wasn't going to take that away from you. Instead, if I don't like your opinion, I'm going to cancel you.
That's it. It's not we're going to agree to disagree, or we're going to, we're just going to part ways, or we can still be, friends. We just have a differing opinion or whatever. It's now I'm going to cancel you, or we're not, you're just not going to, we're not going to exist together. And
Yeah.
one of us is not going to exist. And it's definitely not, I'm not going to make myself not exist.
Yeah.
So, but, yeah, so in that, or in this instance where we've seen what happened now. Trump was shot. He was grazed at least. I want to still see him with the bullet ear piercing. They've got those earrings that look like a bullet went through your ear, and so I want
Give
to
it,
I want to see that.
give it
So,
time.
but um,
You know
maybe
what?
maybe
Though,
the
all
maybe
joking
get
aside,
engaged or something. What's that?
all joking aside, I don't know. Have you been watching a lot of the RNC when Trump comes out and Trump the first day? Did you see the first day?
No, I didn't. I honestly I haven't been able to stay on it very
So,
much. I've been pretty busy the last couple days here.
so the RNC convention is going on right now,
Yeah.
and on Sunday, the day after he was shot, he went walked out onto the floor, and actually every night since then, because he comes out about 8 o'clock every night, there is a difference to that guy. I mean, and just kind of watching his demeanor. Um, it seems like there's a lot of humility and a lot of gratitude there. And I'm speaking of a guy that just gotten shot, not but
Right.
less than a week ago. So
Right. And yeah,
I'm
I
sure.
mean but you think about it, I mean you have a brush with death cuz honestly half an inch to the left or or whatever, you know he was out. He was gone.
Hmm.
And when it's that close, it's kind of like I talked with my brother with Honest Abe when he lost his leg, that it was the same type of deal. A foot to the right, foot to the left, and he's over his bike into the back end of a truck, and not just flying across the grassy area, and losing more than just his foot. So
Well,
um,
the point of what I was saying is I wonder if this is going to
yeah.
be a different Trump presidency because of
Well,
it.
and maybe this is what he needed to just become a more powerful, more just introspective Trump, and just yeah, we're gonna win no matter what, but at the same time we're going to it's gonna be more humbly win no matter what. We're gonna make America great and enjoy it type deal instead of just take it for granted
Hmm.
that we made it great. So I would honestly just I would welcome it. Um, I didn't think there was major. I know that he's brash and whatever, but at the same time, some of his brashness probably kept us out of battle, out of fighting. Um, I mean, I
Yeah.
can I I can say that most likely Russia didn't attack Ukraine while Trump was president, because Trump came in and told NATO that they needed to bring their money to the table. He came in and told the United Nations, bring your money to the table, because we're not funding this thing all by ourselves anymore. And
let me
and
let
went
me
and
tell
met
you,
him.
if I'm the leader of a crackpot third world country, and America has this crazy guy that I have no idea what he's going to do, I am going to be
Right.
on my best behavior. And I think from here on out, we should always have brash, crazy guys as our president. Keep us out of a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I think that we when we had generals as presidents, maybe our economy wasn't always the greatest, but we were safe here at home. You know, we didn't get into a ton of battles, and you know, if we did, we were well-run machines. So my
Yeah.
camera's going to go out here in half a second, so I'll still be on voice, but I won't have my camera for a second. I need to get a phone cord. I didn't realize I had left my cord off of it, so get it charged back up. But yeah, so we would be. Okay. We would be, you know, we would have a plan and stuff. And right now, like, you know, the last, you know, even with Obama, you know, as great as everyone wants to say he was, um, he didn't do anything away from home. He was here doing whatever he could to like smash and grab, and you know, outside of, I mean, you pretty much let everything go outside of here. You know, we just, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I would definitely, you know, I would welcome it with open arms if he was, you know, if he's going to be a more humble. I don't think you go through a life threatening thing, whether it's cancer or a brush with being shot or anything like that, without it at least giving you some kind of retrospective. I mean, maybe unless you're like a U.S. Navy SEAL or something like that, that's kind of used to it. You know, maybe the first or second time that's the case, but then maybe the third or fourth time you're like, you know, whatever, cool. But yeah, I don't think you go through something like that, and especially just, you know, I mean, he's a businessman. He hasn't gone to war. He hasn't been in battle. He doesn't, you know, that's not his forte. So I could definitely see him. You know,
Yeah, but the instincts he had to stand up, raise his fists, and yell fight.
Right.
I don't know. It, it was definitely a divine moment as far as um, the bullet not hitting him at all, or well, grazing his ear.
Well, and then and if you like to watch the video, it looks like he's just swatting a bee or something like
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
until he
yeah,
sees like, oh, that's real, and then you see him drop. But it
yeah.
was like, but you know, it's like, can't, you know, at the same point, him standing up, we were talking about this, like, how soft is Secret Service nowadays that you let the president who's been, like, if Ronald Reagan had stood up after being shot, he'd be dead because they would have shot him a second time. Like the sniper would have been there shooting him a second time. But
So there was 7 or 8 bullets that rang out from the shooter.
yeah,
Only one of them came close to Trump.
well,
He
that's
did.
what I was wondering too. I don't know whether it was 7 or 8 from the shooter or it was 1 or 2 from the shooter and then return fire from Secret Service, because if you watch there are some videos. There's actually a guy who was on BBC America first. He was like within an hour or two. BBC America had him in like a studio van,
Oh, the
having a
redheaded guy.
having a conversation where he's like, "Look, we have video of we were telling Secret Service and the local police that he's on top of the building with a gun. Like we got video of him with a gun on there."
Yeah.
And you know, which I wonder how long it is before he's gone. But you know,
Well, actually, it came out today that that they were aware of the guy for almost an hour prior to this all taking place. They were looking for a guy with a rangefinder, and they had they had a picture of him. A couple of the local police had taken a picture because he looked suspicious, milling around that building. There's a lot coming out that it's like it's getting worse. Now it's so when it first happened, everybody the whole question: how in the heck did this happen from there?
Right.
And now the questions are there's getting more and more questions. It's almost getting to the point to where you can't deny the fact that it was absolutely on purpose.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I kind of wondered that too. I mean, like, and I did see one article where they talked about the Secret Service was so loose. They didn't have enough Secret Service agents, and so they've had to loosen and lighten their prospects. And so they're hiring more people that probably wouldn't have gotten in back in the day, and that's and so they were trying to blame part of that on how kind of laissez-faire they treated this guy, and
Yeah.
it's like, but like you would have in any given you would have cleared that building. Like no one should have been able to get on that building should have been a target point. Like you should have had snipers on that building.
Well, I mean, it was a 5-degree slope. I mean,
Right. Nobody. That's why he missed. That's why he missed. He didn't,
I'll tell you
the
what, man.
Coriolis effect and the whole not being flat Earth thing really really got
So,
really.
I mean, they could have put Pete Buttigieg up there, and it would have been better than what they had up there.
Right.
The fact that every one of our agencies are so overbloated, especially the regulated or the regulatory agencies such as EPA. I could go on. I know ICE is not loaded, but all these huge bureaucratic agencies, the IRS is a big one.
Didn't we hire a bunch of IRS agents and we give those guys guns?
Yeah,
So
we
guys and we train those guys to shoot.
Yeah.
So those guys, maybe they should start coming to the rallies.
Yeah,
Maybe they should get in charge of running the presidents.
The argument I heard was DEI seems to be a big because this Kimberly Cheadle, or is that her name? Is it Cheadle? Whatever.
Yeah.
Paula Cheadle, maybe. Paula Blart. Anyway,
Not Don.
something like that. Anyway, the director is very
Right.
DEI oriented, and she wants to increase the hiring of women in the Secret Service by 30% by such and such date, and we saw it reflected in Saturday. There was ladies that could not holster their guns. They weren't tall enough to protect the president.
Right.
Well,
I mean, if he's getting shot in the rear, we're protected.
I'm not saying that these ladies can't do certain jobs, but there are certain jobs when you have a protectee that's 6'2", 6'3", and you're only 5'4", 5'6", you're not going to be able to protect them very well.
And it's nothing against you personally. It's the fact that yes, maybe you can be a Secret Service agent, but you maybe can't be in that spot. That's not your position. Maybe if we had a 5'9" president, then maybe you could. But
Mike DeWine will never be president.
Thank God. Oh, now that you've said it, though, he's going to become president. But yeah, no. A couple years ago, I decided I would never vote for him again, but and I still haven't. But
Yeah, that
But
guy.
yeah, so anyhow, but yeah, so I'm really not for this DEI crap. I mean, it's junk. Like if you're the best candidate, you should get the job. It shouldn't matter whether you're white, pink, purple, blue, one armed, one legged, a woman, man, transitioning into a pig or a Chinese checker or Elmo
Well,
or you're
let's all the pigs stay at home.
well, yeah, we normally don't make them have jobs anyhow, right? Um, but I because if you want fair, fair's only fair if we don't look at you at all. If we just
Yeah,
look at what's on the paper, we just look at what you say, and we take that. And I feel like honestly, we were the closest to that in the '90s.
yeah.
We
And
had kind of
that was the problem. That was the problem because everybody was, everybody shared their everything about them, and everything was accepting, and that was the issue because everybody was becoming united, and communists don't like that. They like division. So we had to bring this new term in, and we're going to call it equity. And that,
right,
and that it used to be, it was what was it? It was equality. So
right.
you're just as equal as me, as I'm just as equal as she. Now it's equity, and that means that what you have was stolen from someone else because of your skin color or your ethnicity, and you need to give that to somebody else that's less fortunate than you.
It's
And
the fact that you didn't earn this privilege.
yeah,
You were given to you by your color of your skin.
yeah, and it's inherently racist.
Right. And that's 100%. That's I mean we've talked about that. I don't know 100 times, and it's sad, but we've also said a couple things that I'm sure that will get us kicked off of some platform again real soon. But we we act like like every minority group is women, because women really are. I mean, they might even be the majority. There might be more women than men in the world, but we act like that for African Americans. We act like that for Latinos. We act like that for the Asians, or well, we don't really act like that for the Asians. The Asians are like we just discriminate against them. All the countries in the world pretty much discriminate against Asians. Um, they're still slaves in most Asian countries.
Yeah,
But we act like African Americans are 50-50 equal. There's 40% African Americans and maybe 50% American white Americans. But it's not that close. It's 14 to 20% at most African Americans in the country. And not that they should be marginalized, but that there's no way to make them 50% equity in equity stakeholders in the country, because they're not. There's
and
only 20% of them.
I don't even accept the premise. I really don't. I don't care what color you are. Like you
Right.
said earlier, I could care less if you can do the job, and whatever you're being asked to do. If you're able to do it, I think you should have it.
Right.
Uh, and there are bigots on both sides,
Exactly.
and you weed out the bigots and you ignore them and work around them.
That's right.
Um,
The problem
the
is when a governing body comes in and says you have to.
the problem is that the bigots have become the people in charge of the government that are telling us what to do.
Right.
So the fascists, the bigots,
The bureaucrats and whatever you call them.
the bureaucrat, politicians. You call them anything you
Politicians,
want.
lawyers, liars, whatever.
That's the thing.
So yeah, no,
I don't get how they call someone who votes right fascists. I mean, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna whip your butt because of what you think. And that is ultimately that's what a fascist is. If you don't agree with me, I will beat you down until you do, or I will kill you.
right. That and that's 100% like that. That's what the fascism is like you said. You're going to take whatever you want. You're going to do it however you want to do it, and you don't care what everybody else thinks. And it's about basically taking power, and a lot of times it's about taking power with fear.
Hmm.
And so we bandy about this fascism and we say, "Oh, you're being a bully. You're a fascist." Well, that's not honestly what it is. I'm being a bully. And then there's I'm not taking your power along with my power. You can have your power back anytime you get a pair and take me on. Not that I want to be a bully, or not that I'm like saying let's be bullies, or I'm condoning bullyism. But sorry, I'm also kind of half working on getting my camera back up. But I'm saying, all right, maybe I get back up here this time. But that's part of it is that you're, as a we're just not using the word right. Like we say it as a bad word because it's a talking point on emails from everyone in their mama is putting out an email setting saying this is what we're following, this is what we're saying to this week, this is how we're doing it. And you know and the other side, or the rest of us who think for ourselves, don't think we need a group of people that think just like us. And so we think for ourselves instead of putting out our own group. And because we all think for ourselves, we're like that Red Bull commercial where everybody thinks they think for themselves, and we're just all flying off in the middle of nowhere saying the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, so I did read where, and I don't know, and this is part of it that we just kind of talked about is who was the guy? Who have you because there's so many news organizations trying to spin their agenda. Like I've heard 3 or 4 different kinds of stories. I heard that it was Iranian dissidents that had come across the border, that he was part of, they're taking credit for it. I've heard, like, I think we were talking before, what's your take on it?
So, honestly, Chef, I don't know if we'll ever know who this kid really was, or what his motives or intentions were. Because after this happens, especially initially after it happened, I human nature makes me want to look up that those to answer those questions, because you automatically ask, why would anybody do this? And then you get into that, everybody trying to get the news out as quickly as possible, and they don't even know if it's
Right.
true or not. So, as far as we knew, he had 3 heads and could fly, and this, that, and the other.
Well, I
But
mean, Trump
after,
fell down because
yeah,
he's not fit to be president, so he fell down. And And that's
that was the very early the first report. But so now that the dust has settled a little bit, and well, before I start, I got a question for you. Do you trust? Do you trust the FBI is going to give us all the answers?
no. No, I mean, ever ever since that magic bullet, I think we're being lied to no matter what.
Yeah, I feel the same way. So you don't know
Honestly,
what.
and actually, it it still astonished me, and I tell people that I've said this a million times. I don't know if you're old enough to know. Did you watch the movie Wag the Dog?
Oh man,
It
no, I
was
didn't.
Dustin Hoffman, and and there's a part in the movie where he's sitting in a limo, and they're talking to him, and they say, well, we're down so many points, blah blah blah. And I don't remember whether it seems like it was Matt Damon. I don't remember who it was his nerdy publicist fixer person. And he goes, I got this idea. I think we just, for one news cycle, we create a war. And at that time, that was like this, oh, did you see, that's sensational, that's crazy, what, how, and I'm thinking, and I think I was like 13 or 14 at the time, and I'm like, huh. And they create, like literally they take video of these, F whatevers at the time, and these MiGs, and they just create this, like, not even war, but this skirmish that happened over near the Russian border. And for one news cycle, it completely wipes out what was going, his bad publicity that dropped him so many points. And I thought, holy crap. And then we get like 5-10 years ago, and I said, holy crap, we're getting wagged the dogs. We're just all the time we're getting wagged.
Mm-hmm.
And so, no, I don't.
Well, I mean, think about it. How much talk did you hear about Joe Biden stepping down on Saturday evenings, all day Sunday, Monday? It wasn't until about today I started hearing about it again.
Well, and that was part of, we talked about it like right after the debate. If you watch CNN's coverage after the debate, that was the telling spot. They had, I don't know, 8 of them out there, 9 of them, and they brought in Van Jones, who hasn't been hasn't been wagging his finger at us on TV for a while, and they brought in one of his press secretaries and all of that, and they're like, and they were you could tell they were visibly surprised how bad he had gotten. I mean, during the debate, he's literally just staring at the camera while Trump was talking. He was just like doe-eyed. He wasn't even there. You can tell he wasn't there. And honestly, go on.
It was sad.
Yeah. And if you spent any time with people with dementia or Alzheimer's, that's how they look when they're gone. When they're not like fully lucid, that's how they look. They're just, they just look at you with that, like, they don't know who you are stare.
Yeah.
And he just sat there looking into the screen like, I don't know where I'm at, but they told me to say this, so this is what I'm going to say. And the whole time. And so they like, after like 15 minutes afterwards, like, oh, I can't believe. And so they had to dig up some people who hadn't seen him in a while to even be surprised that he was so far out of it. And I don't know. I've said this a bunch of times. I said since they announced that they were going to do the debates, he was going to make it one debate, and then he was either going to be gone or there wasn't going to be a second debate, but he was going to be at one debate, and that was going to start the conversation of him going the way of the buffalo.
Yeah.
And I said, I still think they're going to DNC him which is two different things. At the Democratic National Convention, they're going to bring out the super delegates, and Hillary Clinton wins it, or they're going to Bernie Sanders they're going to Bernie Sanders him, and somebody else is going to come through. Yeah, they're going to pull his meds again, and he's going to say something completely crazy, and he's going to, remember Howard Dean. He won the Iowa caucus, and he won Rhode Island or whatever it was, New Hampshire, New Hampshire. And all of a sudden he came out with a speech, and he's like, type thing, and then he was gone. Like it was like one of the first memes back when memes just started. Yeah. And then
he went away, but yeah. I mean, he became the DNC chairman, but
he became the chairman, and they're like, well, we can't, but that's what's so crazy about it is he can have such a terrible debate, and he's not gone. But dude, you yelled "yeehaw" and he's out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But that's what I've said even about Obama. Obama, you don't know where his actual birth certificate was, but dude says "yeehaw" and he's gone.
Yeah.
Difference in time frames here now.
Yeah, I think Biden will be gone before Saturday. This COVID thing is going to become a lot worse than we think it is, and he just will not be able to serve as the candidate any longer, and he's going to pass his delegates on to Harris. Is what I think. I think that's how it's going to go down.
I really hope it's not Harris, but I do think if it is Harris,
it has to be, because that's the war chest. In order for it to be otherwise it gets transferred to a PAC, and then it gets divvied out. So then it has to go Harris. Plus the Congressional Black Caucus will fall apart. The black vote will not be there, because they're kind of depending on that was the whole deal with Harris getting nominated as vice president, and then they would get the black vote. And so they're in a sticky wicket, one might say.
And I can see that. I mean, I thought more of the money would come. I thought most of the money came from the DNC after the convention. That's when most of the money was actually drawn out. And that's how that's how he would finish out, or whoever would finish out, is with the money from the Democratic, even though there was a super PAC. But I don't know. I just don't. They're going to do something. They can change the rules, right? They don't have to follow the rules.
And that's what I've been arguing all along. I mean, they don't care about rules. I mean, they've proven that with the student loan, which I heard today got knocked down by a federal judge that said that the student loan forgiveness, they can't go forward with that, but that Supreme Court already told them that, and they don't care. So I mean,
and that's what was great is he took a victory lap. Oh, we got this much student loan done, and it was the same student loan program that they had already that was already in place. If you served for a year as a teacher, as a police officer, as a blah blah blah, then you got so much of your student loan forgiven. That's already been in place for like 10 or 15 years. That's nothing new.
Yeah, that was to inspire people to become teachers and firefighters, and it's been around for a long
EMS
time.
And yeah. But I went and I looked. I was like, oh, did I get my student loan taken off? And I had actually, but it was because the school that I went to was in a class action lawsuit for predatory lending.
Oh yeah.
And so for some reason, I guess in the final judgment or whatever, they actually, they signed off all of their debts to the government and whatever, and we got our loans
So
taken
here's
off.
the criteria is that you have to be a graduate from Yale, Harvard, or Cambridge or Columbia. You have to be working for the federal government. It's like a really select group of people, and they're very
Right.
high. They're elitist people. I mean, it's
Right.
not the common you and me that are
Who
working.
have already paid their debts
Yeah,
off or are in the process of paying their debts only because they're just, they're paying they're investing their money in other things that make them more money than paying off their debt.
yeah. So I mean, it's the people who really don't need the money.
Right.
One, we are paying off their debt. I like how they throw around forgiveness like it just vanishes. It
But
doesn't just
and
vanish.
it it's kind of like amnesty. These people did come here illegally, but let's give them amnesty. Let's just give them a free ride. All those murderers and all of those other
This land
people.
is my land. This land is your land. Don't you know the song?
That's right. But I thought this land was my land, and you came here illegally, but you had your own land somewhere else. Oh,
So,
I don't know. I don't know.
yeah.
But so so what do you believe the shooter? Is there really like? I mean, I'm reading like he's from Pittsburgh and things of that nature. So it's probably not an Iranian like. They're not actually getting credit for this, unfortunately for them.
No, he lived an hour away from the where the shooting took place. And this is what's weird for me is I heard that his parents called the police, and mind you, this was 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. His parents called the police and said that their son hadn't returned home today. They were worried that he hadn't returned home. Now, why would you call the police? I have, and this is a 20-year-old kid we're speaking of. I have a 22-year-old. If it's Saturday and he's not home, I'm not calling until 48 to 72 hours later, and I haven't heard from him.
Right. Right.
The same day. So that was kind of an odd report that I heard.
Well, they don't want to go to jail like those guys from Michigan.
Yeah, that's exactly CYA. CYA. That's exactly what I thought of. Because we know that he donated $15 to Act Blue, which is a far left liberal organization.
Right.
He's registered Republican, which we know that the Democrats like to play games with our primaries, and they will
Right.
they will register as a Republican so that they can get help kind of usher in a candidate that they think they can beat. And happened to be Donald Trump, I think, is what Joe Biden thought he could beat Donald Trump. The kid sounds like he was just, he's a typical kid, and that's the problem. Is that it was a kid in a home that was void of God, a lot of video games, a lot of time, and he got influenced by what sounds like, and this is and I don't, like I said early on in the show, I don't know how much of this is true and how much of it is misleading. But he's just a misled kid. He didn't know God, and so he has no moral compass, and decided to make his mark in the world. So,
And not to go too conspiracy theorist, but what's not to say that the U.S. government doesn't have a group of video game playing whatevers on chat rooms
we know
proselytizing.
100% true, and there is no conspiracy behind this, that they absolutely set up an operation, and the FBI was the one that motivated the people to to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, which is the Michigan governor, and that kind of fell apart on him because the two FBI agents were very were idiots, so to speak. But yeah, they do it. They do it all the time. That's
Right.
no secret. So I mean, yeah, they could absolutely have done it this way too. They could have pulled the kid aside and said, "You know what? You if you want this, that, and the other, you want your family taken care of. You know, we want you to do this for us, and we won't hurt you. We'll put you into secret protection after you're done. You know, and
Right.
and everything will be okay." And he probably thought, I'm going to be living my life and the rest of my life in the lap of luxury.
Protective custody in
Yeah,
some
because we need
two-bit
to get rid of
hotel in Florida. Yep.
and
That's what
well,
I said. I said they shootered that kid.
yeah, yeah.
They literally they
They
told her, they sold him a
didn't
bag of
quick.
goods. They said you're gonna be a patriot, blah blah blah. And this kid like, okay, cool. I'm gonna set my family up. I'm gonna whatever. And they used him as a scapegoat. He wasn't even part of the FBI.
Yeah, yep. I mean, 20 years ago, I would have said, "You're crazy, chef. That is just nutty thinking." But
Right.
today, that is an absolute valid thought process because we've seen it recently.
And as much as as much as we're not a third world country, or we're not a developing nation, if you see these things in other countries happening, they're 100% happening here. We've just
Mm-hmm.
developed them better. We're just using a more covert, secret, way to do it.
Yeah, we're better at reading.
Here's the deal: Franz Ferdinand. Here we go. Right here, he almost became it.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
absolutely.
and
And
that was
that's
one
the
of the
other
things I heard is like, had they missed, how much different would the country be today, or in the days after, how much more of a powder keg would that have let off? I mean,
the minute I saw that it was happening, there was adrenaline running through me,
right,
and I'm not quick to do stuff like that, but it was just like all the alarm bells were going off. I was ready, I was ready to whatever
right.
my
I'm like,
country needed.
okay, the the guns that I lost in the pond in the horrible boating accident, where are those at? Where's the ammo that I allegedly had in that pond, in that boat also? Where,
Yeah,
and just, just the thought of just, are we prepared for this? Because we've talked about it over the last few weeks, even with the conspiracy theory week, my brother even asked, like, will we ever go to the barter system? Will we, no. We don't have a population set for that, but there will be groups of people who have skills, who have built certain skills together, and have realized that we are going to need each other eventually. And so they've networked out and found people with skills that they don't have to create a society that can sustain. If for some reason we get attacked, or if for some reason the country goes into civil war, where will you get your boiled peanuts? You know,
yeah, yeah.
where will you get your seafood from? Will you be able to sustain with what you've got? And it's not that I grow a garden that has enough food for me, but it's part of, okay, this garden could be replicated in 3 times the size. The ability to grow something, I know I have that. And so if I need to grow corn or green beans, or I'm not doing such a good job right now, but I can grow more of them, and just per capita I'm going to make it. Um I've got almost an acre at my house, so I can.
Yeah.
I'll fight them deer off. But yeah, so it's just getting, and I know that there are, you know, I've got a spot in a group, I guess. I haven't really talked to him a ton, but my stepdad says we got a spot. So, but they've got provisions. They're looking for people who have skills, and they've got a doctor, and some other things, and so that will be what the US does in that kind of situation. There will be some people who will actually fight, and honestly, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution calls for it.
Yeah.
That if at one point a group of people becomes so oppressive in our own country, it's time to step up and you know
The tree of liberty needs watered with the blood of
right.
patriots. So
Do I believe that we have the generations to do it? Maybe. I mean, I think there are a few generations still around, um, that have the patriotism, but I think in the next 5 to 10 years we'll be losing those
I don't know
heavily.
this Y generation is coming up. Um, they're pretty right thinking. I know my son. He's 22. He wants nothing to do with the government. Nothing.
Right.
That's encouraging.
It
Excuse
is,
me.
as long as it's not just I want nothing to do with the government, so I'm not going to pay attention to what's going on there.
Mm,
And that's
yeah.
and that's part of what I'm seeing in some of them is that you're seeing them say, I want nothing to do with the government, so I'm going to back out. I'm not going to vote. Honestly, Jay Boots was in that program for a while. Is that he just was so angry with the government that you know Santa Claus
Did you
got a
get
few
him
votes.
fixed? Did you get him fixed?
Oh, I don't know. I don't. I honestly, we don't fight that battle anymore. I just tell him, if he's not doing his civic duty, he's not doing his civic duty, and he can't talk about it. So,
I won't talk to him anymore. I will cancel him as a friend if he does that.
yeah. So, it looked like Trump was coming on. I think you were gonna go and watch that. Um, if you get a chance, give us a heads up on it. I think I'm gonna hit a couple more articles, and then we'll be out finishing up with it too. So, Peyton, great to hear from you, like always.
Yeah,
Anytime you can get on, get on. We had
absolutely.
Honest Abe jump on like 8:30 one night, 9:30 one night, and we were about ready to close her down, and then he jumps on at 9:30. We didn't close her down till 10:30. So you see us on, or you get on, you come on. So
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate you
yes,
having me
definitely,
on.
definitely.
All right.
So one thing we didn't get a chance to talk about um, was JD Vance has been chosen as, and I wish we would have gotten a chance to talk about it because I did want to hear his take on this. But so JD Vance is now the running mate to Trump, and my question really was to him even was, what does he gain by adding Vance to it? Um, because it looked like there's Marco Rubio, um, Doug Burgum, which again, I know that at one point Ramaswamy was on there. I I just felt like if if you were going to choose, and 100%, I do like Vance. I've actually talked to Vance myself, and I really do like him 100%. I have no qualms with him being the choice. I really, because he's here in Ohio. When I ran my food truck, I actually, got to talk to him a few times at different rallies and stuff. And I didn't know, I don't know whether he gains a group, kind of like what we were talking about. We gotta keep cackling Kamala on there because she commands the black vote. But I kind of wondered, like, you know, I love him. I like the choice, but the optics of it is, yeah. And I got true Liberty Twitcher on here, and he's blowing us up, and he's just saying, Trump is truly trying to build his best team. And that was one of the things we were actually trying to lead into it, is that Trump, seemed like he was more introspective, and that's why and maybe that's why he chose Vance, is because, honestly, if he does get assassinated, or he does, there is an issue that he can't run the country, that maybe Vance is his choice. Maybe he's the best choice that he sees to run the country afterwards. And and he's even talking about how Vance is a good team player. And that's what I talked about also, is I haven't talked to Vance for a few years now. And I'm just hoping that, because he's only been in office for so many years, he's not been there forever, that maybe he doesn't owe everybody that some of the others do, or that some of the others have. And maybe that he just, like you said, he's just the best guy for it. He's just going to be able to steamroll it, and with his background and everything, he's just going to be that guy that can command authority. um yeah, Liberty Twitcher says the Vance seems like an excellent balance to the Trump. Trump talks simple and direct, but Vance seems more detailed. And I do think, like, if Trump will say we're going to make America great, and Vance will come in and say this is how we're going to make America great, and he kind of gives the plan, because I think part of that is that he's a military soldier. He's been part of the military, and when you speak in that realm, and I think that goes back to our conversation earlier, that we talked about how, a lot of times the management of our foreign policy was better, our safety was better under a former general, or a former person who was in charge of the country's military. And with that being said, I think they're more easily electable, because they give the plan. That's what they're built to do, is to give out the plan. And if your people don't know the plan, then they can't do their step in the plan. And even if they don't know the whole plan, because, like Colonel Sanders, 11 herbs and spices, and you don't know the whole recipe, if you do your part of the recipe, then it all comes together. And even if we don't always know the whole plan, if we know part of the plan, then we know how to do our part of the plan. Even as Americans, we have a part to play. And so if we're going through the what's going on, if we're going through it, we can do our part. And I think that the Democratic Party they do a better job of that by, like we already talked about, sending out the emails and sending out, all of the talking points, whether it's daily, weekly, or monthly, depending on how you subscribe to the mothership. That they do a better job of getting the word out. And so, without the ability to critical think, those people, the people who follow them don't want to critically think anyway. They want it spoon fed to them. And so they just, spew out whatever they get told, and then they go on. But and maybe that's the case. Maybe there is no, like, but you have to look at the optics. I mean, and we talked about this, that the best person for the job should be the one chosen. And I've even talked a couple weeks ago about how, when Biden came out and said, well, I may not be as fast as I once was, I can't run as quick, and I can't debate as well, and I can't, then we don't want you as president, because you're not at the top of your game. I don't care if you're only 10% less than you used to be. You're not better than everyone else in the world, or better than everyone else in the US even. And so I just I don't want you to run the country. This is the biggest, most prestigious job in the world. You aren't qualified, because you're not the biggest, most prestigious person in the US even. So go away. Not supposed to be voted for. So, but I do really like the JD Vance, pick. I was actually hoping that he would pick JD Vance, but I didn't want to lose the election because it's just two white guys. I just didn't want it to be, I honestly, as much as I don't think it matters. As much as I don't think it matters, I think that it matters, and I don't want to lose the election because we didn't play the game the best, or, I think it's important enough that we do what we can. And so that's what I was even talking with Payton about it a little bit, about how I thought that, at least, with Rubio, he's got the Latino side. All right. If you got Ramaswamy, you've got that ethnicity side. And so I thought, we could, that made sense. Or even if we put a woman on the ticket, honestly, none of those people I really want to be president after this, like next. Where I could see JD Vance being a good leader, a good president after this, or after Trump. And maybe that's what Trump sees, is that, let's give a guy who actually could lead the country in a positive direction a spot, a chance. Let's give, let's put it, let's reach our hand out to the next generation and build legacy here, as opposed to just advancing our strategy and, doing it that way. And in that, I can get behind that. I can honestly 100% get behind that. He's probably the best vice president candidate that I've really seen in my lifetime. Obviously, the Bush-Reagan deal was like back before I was born. So, or just, I was like 3 or 4 or 2 or something like that. So, there wasn't, I didn't have a whole lot into that. So, but really, that kind of deal, I can see it. And I really I do like it. I just question, the strategery and, you know, this might be the chance that he needs to do something better or great with it. And if nothing else, it's just another great thing that he's done in his life. That you can just say, whoa, that guy he's just done so many crazy things. And just, the life that he's lived has been 3 or 4 lives just, as you go through things. And so, I do like it. I do think it's a good pick. I just, it was one of those deals where I didn't, so, and then, just on the piggyback of that, same day, separately, a federal judge dismissed Trump's criminal indictment over his handling of classified documents. The judge ruled special counsel Jack Smith's appointment as prosecutor violated the U.S. Constitution, which required such appointments to be made by the president and confirmed by the Senate or by an act of legislation. And then Smith intends to appeal. Like, let it go, man. They already said that he had immunity for acts of work while he was president. I think that slides, some of that slides into the federal documents stuff. I think you can get you can kind of argue that that's part of it. And just, and just get into it. I've got the Trump speech on behind me here. I didn't get to hear any of it or what's going on, but yeah, just we'll get some notes from Payton and I'll probably watch it here once I get off. We'll talk about it, and then maybe I'll even jump on tomorrow and do a little, my thoughts about it since we did the debate and things like that. But honestly, just a last thoughts and stuff here. Can't believe Hulk Hogan's talking at the RNC. I didn't get to see that either, but I'm going to go back and YouTube that sucker. And I did get to shake his hand. I didn't get to really meet him, but I did get to shake his hand in New York. He came out and to his ring music and all of that. That was cool. And then at a card show, he was doing an autograph signing in White Plains, New York, and it was right after Ric Flair was sent to the hospital for the flu and all of that good stuff. And this was before COVID, so he was came out and gave a nice speech for Ric Flair. But cool enough guy, interesting nonetheless. But yeah, so I'll look that up. But just final thoughts on it. I mean, honestly, if Trump was if nothing else, Trump was shot and he becomes a more introspective, more humble leader, I think he still needs to be outspoken. I think that part of his shtick is, and part of, like we talked about, part of how he keeps America safe is the fact that he's not afraid. He is willing to go out there and do what it takes and say what it takes to get things done. His negotiating skills, the ability to know the person across the table from you, or at least be able to intermingle around that, I think has been again what it takes to get things done. And so, um, if that if the if the shooting took that or did that, then I think a lot of people are going to say thank you, to the shooter, not in a ho ho thanks guy, or not in a way like Tenacious D and all of that, where oh shouldn't have missed, don't miss next time, um, type deal, but in a way like, okay, we can see that this was a turning point, and we're grateful for that turning point, because I know a lot of people are super turned off by him. And honestly, I've always been of the mindset that I honestly I want to see the results. And yes, I care about your deal, your integrity, but I care less about your integrity and how people perceive you, and I care more about the fruit that comes from your tree, the what you produce. And he's honestly he gives benevolently. He ran our country swimmingly. Like, we didn't get into any major battles. We were working on getting out of Afghanistan, not the way that we did. We caught up to a lot of mercenary terrorists and decided to end their careers. We, stayed out of major battles. We pulled people out of places where they shouldn't have been, and all kinds of stuff like that. And I think that we still need some of that. Obviously, I don't want him to go quiet. I don't think he could, but I also think that um he just, if he can just stay on the course and stay on it, and I think even you saw it in the debate where he didn't get crazy. He could have made it a mudslinging match. He could have like just attacked him straight on, and you would have watched Joe go a lot. Or Joe would have just said, "You're lying, you're lying, you're lying," and that would have been the deal. And we could have seen that, but we didn't see that. And as much as CNN and NBC and all of those guys wanted to say he was bullying him, and he was an angry protagonist, and he was just pushing him around, and he was being mean and hateful. That's not the debate I saw. He told the facts. He told the truth. And he called him out. And Joe Biden didn't have anything to say about it. He didn't have any words to debate him. He wasn't able to think on his toes to come back. There was no argument. It was just, you're lying. And on this thing, we created 15,000 jobs and blah, 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 blah. All a bunch of lies. But I do think you don't go through an issue like this, or a life event like this, and not come back a different or changed person. So Again, get on, follow, like, and share us on whyimangry.com, on whyimangry on all of your social media devices, all of your social media pages, and wherever you get your podcasts, just go over there and search whyimangry.podcast, and you will find us. And just like it, hit the RSS automatic download, get the podcast, and honestly start thinking for yourself. Get out there, get the information that we give you, get the ideas, the thoughts that we start in you, and just take them out and start Googling it and see how crazy Google is. Like, I 100% have been Googling things just to see, not even to like actually get the information, but just to see where the information's at. And that night I looked at the top trending searches on Google. Trump was not one of them. And you can't tell me that Trump wasn't a majorly searched thing on Saturday night when he was shot. Other than the fact that the news organizations were slow to even get out that there was shots fired or that he was even shot. So get on, get out, get our name out, get the Why I'm Angry podcast out, get angry, get on here, laugh a little bit, get less angry, go back out in the world and get angry again. And if you want, shoot us some emails at whyimangrypodcast@gmail.com and get us the articles that you read that you think we need to talk about. Get on there. I've got a couple still. If it hadn't been for there being a shooting, I have a couple that I needed to read from even last week. One about LeBron James kid and all the fault, and then just all kinds of different things. So, but get out there, get on, follow, like, and share us. We love you.
Remember to follow, like, and share the Why I'm Angry podcast across all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast. The Why I'm Angry podcast ends now.